All right. Good afternoon, Tom Szaky. We're here on episode, I think, number 5 of the SoulBuffalo Earth Report, and I'm here with Tom Szaky, who is the CEO of TerraCycle and the chairman of the Terracycle Foundation. And yeah, excited to dig in on all kinds of stuff, Tom.
Right on. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, man. So, how are you today? What is eating up most of your time and bandwidth in your sort of current state of affairs at TerraCycle?
Yeah, man, it is busy here. Things are just, I'd say, really. I mean, even though we're in the middle of the pandemic and all of this, things are rocking and rolling. Whether it's increasing or getting more programs live to recycle things that are hard to recycle, or integrating recycled content, or the platform we have on Loop on moving to reusables, even the foundation. So it's sort of amazing that, I mean, I'm sitting at home working. All of our team members around the world are at home, but this topic around solving for waste and bringing about the circular economy is just gaining even more traction throughout the pandemic. So we're just thrilled that is moving and keeping us incredibly busy.
Yeah, no kidding. The first time Tom and I met, we were actually on a UN World Ocean webinar. And I think the first time we've been back and forth on email, but the first time that we ever met.
Yeah, we met on one of these, right?
Yeah. And I was meaning to ask you ever since, what exactly is that behind you? Is that, it looks like—
You mean up here?
Yeah. What is that?
So I'm in my home office, and this is a mural that a friend of mine painted. Just put it up here so you can sort of see what it looks like. And it's just a night sky. It's got like the kids in there, and my wife, family in there as, constellations. But the bigger story in all of this, like you can sort of, the room's a little funky, is, I spend a lot of my time, I'm sure as you do, communicating, talking, whether, to an audience like today, or, to companies or whatever, writing, communicating. It's all communicating. That's all I do. And I don't get to experience the physicality of the work as much, because when we go and recycle, I don't know, like a bazillion car seats or a billion cigarette butts, I don't go and see and like actually collect them. You know what I mean? I just see it on a spreadsheet. So for me, it's sort of like a therapy to physically build things. And so I do that at home, build rooms like this. And so this is just one of those. But each room in this house is sort of a little magical escape into something else.
Nice. Just like I've seen pictures of your office in Newark. They're incredible. And you guys are having new graffiti artists come out this year, or did that already happen?
Oh, no, all the time. So we're in Trenton, New Jersey is our global headquarters. And that is, for context, if you don't know Trenton, it's one of the, I think, the third most dangerous city in the US. It's a classic, horrible situation, from an inner city point of view. It's a food desert. It's all those things. And, it has a big graffiti culture. And so we've opened up our campus to allow people to paint anything they want, whenever they want. And it's gotten so big that, like, literally today, if I went over to the office, there'd be guys there painting. And our walls are repainted, all of them, roughly every week. So it's like the walls this thick with like latex spray paint. And every once in a while, once a year for sure, we hold a festival where, a few hundred graffiti artists come out and have a lot of fun. And so it's been a great way to support that type of art. And what a nice building to, when you walk in, it's always different.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm living in and working in my basement office here in upstate New York, outside of Woodstock in the mountains. So yeah, it's amazing what you can get done from your yeah, totally. And it's interesting too to just visualize all these car seats getting recycled, and then you just have.
Well, there you go. Although I would say, like in innovative organizations, I do miss the working together. So we really look forward, whenever it is appropriate, probably sometime next year, that we can get everyone back together and get back into that collaborative environment.
So speaking of collaborative environment and the need for collaborative environment, COVID-19 has made everything around the plastics issue, ocean plastics specifically, significantly worse.
Yes.
Not to be Debbie Downer, but it's true. And it's we're not really sure just how much it set everybody across the board that's working on this issue back. We know that waste management has broken down around the world. It's certainly in the developing world. We're also starting to see municipal budget cuts here. People are freaked out about PPE, enough personal protective masks to cover the country of Switzerland if you stitch it all together in a year. So you guys are doing some really cool stuff around that. We'd love to just hear your philosophy around A, where we're at as a whole, and B, how you guys are recycling all these masks and some of the partners that are coming to the table.
Totally. So yes, it's a mixed bag, right? So I'd say, COVID, the effect on the environment on the environmental movement is positive. You know, it's the first time, I would argue, in modern human history that we have taken our foot off the gas for a sustained period of time on a global basis. That's never happened before, you know, since we turned on like the industrial engine. And what that has done is objectively, unarguably shown us our impact on the environment, you know, measured by emission levels are down, animals are showing up where they haven't shown up before. The Earth is thankful that we are taking a little bit of a break. And I think that is only going to give tailwind to the environmental movement. Now, the problem is during COVID, health and safety is more important for people than environment. And after COVID, probably recovering from a recession will be more important than the environment. But nevertheless, the environmental movement is getting tailwind. So we celebrate that. And I think that's showing up all over. And that is really a good thing. The challenge, though, if we look at the systems first, before sort of what COVID is doing to the actual waste stream, is that the recycling system, and remember, recycling is a for-profit enterprise almost everywhere, which means you have to, the best thing to look at when you look at the system health is the health of the business equation, right? Like, are recyclers really doing well, or are they struggling? And recyclers are struggling. They're struggling because end markets are evaporating for the material. As of 2018, 40% of the end markets for recyclers in Western markets disappeared, with countries stopping the importation.
But isn't it also, it's interesting too, because you hear about some of the the mixed paper because of need for Amazon boxes has gone up when that's been traditionally in the sort of having a really challenging time. And then now like plastics is just depressed significantly.
Yes. Well, this is it, right? So in plastics, the export has been problematic. And also COVID has pushed oil prices down, which is increasingly problematic. So what this means is, look, during COVID, a lot of recycling programs have paused, citing health and safety concerns on sorting the waste and so on, because, we have to remember a lot of our MRFs or sorting facilities for recyclers are manual. It's literally people on a conveyor belt picking out what makes sense, right? It's not just all automated. A lot of them, the majority of MRFs in the world are manual. So many of them have paused because of the health and safety concerns of the pandemic. So, today you're likely not, your local recycling facility has a good chance that it's not functioning, even if it's picking up the material. But after COVID, what's likely going to occur is whatever you remember was recyclable, what will be recyclable after COVID will be depressed and less because there's less healthy business equations. And that's then compounded by what you were saying earlier is there's more consumption. We're buying, I've heard statistics say 30% more disposable goods, not just PPE and masks and so on, but also takeaway food packaging, all the extra cleaning products we're purchasing and so on and so forth. And that adds up. So people are more concerned, which is good, but way more consumption of things that are harming the planet, and then systems that are weaker to solve for it, which is not a pretty picture, net. I mean, look, we're able to collect and recycle PPE because when people do it through TerraCycle, they fund the actual cost of collecting it and processing it, minus whatever we can sell those recycled gloves or recycled face masks for. And it's, we've been doing that for 10 years. It's growing a lot. We're seeing a lot more appetite in that. But it does come at a cost. And only certain people are willing to, or certain stakeholders, could be like retailers or businesses, are willing to fund that.
Hospital systems?
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we collect and recycle. So like traditionally before COVID, we were doing a lot of PPE in facilities, like manufacturing facilities, hospitals, those sort of places, more like behind the scenes type work.
So like end of the day, you take your mask off, you throw it out.
Yeah, you go to work, you put it on, end of the day, you take it off and you throw it out. So why not have those recycled? But the normal person wouldn't ever see those because most of the world's PPE is used behind the scenes.
Right.
COVID has brought it front of house, in front of everybody. And that's where we're seeing, retailers like Carrefour in France just launched PPE recycling with us in all their stores. And we're seeing a lot of other retailers do this sort of thing because now it's consumer facing. But PPE, sort of like the plastic straw in the world of ocean plastic, is just the tip of the iceberg, right? It is not in any way the only problem.
Oh, we could, there's so many in this system. I mean, that's just kind of like, you can get overwhelmed. You look at this entire system, plastic waste in the environment, or just generally in waste. I mean, and it's very quickly, you can get incredibly overwhelmed. What's interesting? John Warner was one of our first guests on this program. He's an advisor, a friend. Tom's an advisor, by the way, to the Ocean Plastic Leadership Network. Super grateful for that, my friend. John Warner, he's like the father of green chemistry, and he wrote the book on it. And I was in this discussion with him, and I'm like, who would you say could be the Elon Musk of packaging. And we just went back and forth talking about Tesla and, the types of investment the long-term investment that you can make in those versus the short-term investment that's needed for packaging. And then the next day I open up an article and it says Tom Szaky, the Elon Musk of packaging. So there you go.
That's funny. I'll take that as a great compliment. Yeah, whoever wrote that.
What do you think it's going to take to get us to the next level in this issue? Is it an Elon Musk? Is that even possible? I mean,
so I think there's two parts, right? And the Elon Musk metaphor, or the electronic vehicle metaphor, is a good question, right? Because step one, sort of like moving from a petrochemical transportation system to an electric transportation system, let's call that the Elon Musk, version of it, can be done, I think, in packaging, by innovating new models, whether it's shifting from single use to reusable models. I mean, we have Loop and there's other sort of innovation models. Those are all going to be the types of tools that allow that exact transformation to occur. But then there's a bigger question. I don't think any of that is the solution. Just like the electric car is not the solution, right? Like in the end, if you take petrochemical cars and convert them to electric, a good argument is that yes, that car is electric, but the pollution just got centered wherever the power plant is. And the majority of our power today that fuels those electric cars, the vast majority is destructive power generation. It could be biomass, which is basically burning trees, or it could be fossil fuel based. Very little of it is actually regenerative, like solar, wind, and so on. And the same thing goes for consumer products, right? Even if you buy your cereal in reusable packaging, that's great for the packaging, but the cereal still had to be grown on a farm, which could have been a forest, or if, and so on and so forth. So just like shifting from, gas to electric, or from single use to reusable, these sort of examples, the real answer, and I'm just as much a hypocrite in this question as anyone else, is our relationship with buying stuff. Right? Like one of the nice things about COVID is we're not getting in our cars as much anymore. Right? That's a good thing, and that's why carbon levels are down. Right? But it really would be bad to think that driving an electric car or buying a reusable product is a neutral thing on the planet. It's still destructive.
Anytime we buy anything, it's interesting. We ran this meeting yesterday and we had 58 people join online. This would have been run live. It probably would have been in Washington, D.C., and we probably would have had the same attendance. So then you're having 58 people, or let's say 45 of them are abroad, flying in to D.C., for a really important meeting that had talking about some pretty serious issues, policy related in this place. But we can do it online now, which is totally, I think, a shift in general. It's like, how much of this consumer behavior is going to stick whenever things get back to normal in 2022?
Well, I hope that point to what you just said, Will, is this idea of doing all these things, all the business interactions remotely. Because, if I think back this year, I haven't gotten in an airplane. Well, since COVID, since whatever, February. Last year, gosh, I was, almost, I would say, at least one, maybe two flights a day, something like that,
wow.
For the whole year. Nuts. Because, no, I'm serious. Usually, if I was on the road, it'd be 2 flights a day, land in the morning into your city and take off, to wherever you're going. It's 1.5, however you worked it. But yeah, it was 100 countries in a year, right? Doing what I, perceive as very meaningful work and, pushing these things. But that's a phenomenal amount of impact on the environment, but also just personal strain, to deal with that. It's not fun. And I hope that's one of the things that stick after COVID is the idea of, travel really being something that really needs to happen if you're going to get on a plane versus, oh yeah, I'll just fly out to New Zealand to meet with that organization because it's better to do it in person.
Yeah, no, totally. And I loud and clear. It's interesting too. You're doing international work, and I wanted to talk about the TerraCycle Foundation and all the river work that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
So, essentially, tell me if I'm wrong, but Terracycle Foundation is in India and Thailand and investing resources to collect waste in the middle of rivers. And there's a lot of other organizations. I love the Baltimore Mr. Trash Wheel is one of my favorite. Cool. I think it's so cool. I know the Boy and Slat and the Ocean Cleanup have also started doing work. So just love to hear your thoughts on that ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, and thank you for mentioning, the TerraCycle Foundation. It's a newer foundation. We're a public charity in the US and then operational in Thailand and soon India. And what we're doing is deploying canal and river cleanup devices. Today, the foundation is collecting 10 tons of river plastic a week, and that's only growing, but that's the active collections today, and then getting as much of that recycled as possible, both locally and abroad. But it's by far not the only sort of solution around river cleanups. You mentioned two incredible ones, and Boyan's team on the ocean cleanup have created the River Interceptor, which is a really phenomenal piece of equipment that's cleaning up, large river systems and deployed all over the world. I think two things have to happen in these questions, and this could be not just river, but it could be ocean or any form of environmental pollution. Two things: we have to stop it from occurring, and we have to clean up the mess we have. And the sooner we stop it, the more reasonable the cleanup will be. And the later we stop it, the bigger the cleanup. So it's one of those things that both have to come together. Prevention is the beginning, right? And in prevention, we need to, again, of course, as individuals, check our addiction to consumption. Then, as society, really think about, or as business, how do we help produce products and packages that aren't going to be informally disposed and can be collected and recycled? And the only way to really do that, beyond, let's say, EPR legislation, deposit laws, those sort of things, EPR being extended product responsibility legislation, or deposit bills, is to increase the value of the packaging so that in a country like Thailand, the informal sector, like waste pickers, are willing to go collect it and can get compensated for that work appropriately. But when you make something so cheap that there's no value, no one's going to bother collecting it. So we do have to work on that. And then on the other side, we have to clean up the mess. And a great, as you think about ocean plastic, we've done a lot on, doing ocean plastic cleanup. Rivers are a great place to go because it's sort of moving it upstream. Because, basically what happens in Thailand is people, have waste, they maybe put it in their backyard, not because they're looking to litter, but because there may not be good waste management options anyway. The rainy season comes, washes it into a canal, washes it into a river, washes it into the ocean. So if you can intercept it at the canal or the river, that's significantly better for the environment, but also better for the cost. So collecting river plastic, I think the foundation, it's like 30 cents a kilo is what ends up costing us to collect a kilo out of the river. But if we're going to collect that same material out of the ocean, it could be 10 times that, because it's just harder to deal with in the ocean, and it's also more degraded. So the outputs of what you can make it into are more limited the longer it's been sitting in an aquatic system, and salty environments degrade the plastic faster than fresh water. And the longer it's in the water system, getting penetrated by UV light, getting microbes eating it, the worse quality it becomes. And then there's the less options of what you do with it at the end. Because of course,
when you get it out of the river, you can actually do something with it. So, I mean, you hear about the ocean plastic washing up, and it's just there's toxicity levels that make it very difficult to work with, difficult to recycle. That's why a lot of it gets burned abroad. So if you get it soon, you can do something with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So like in ocean plastic, we've been able to do things like shampoo bottles up to 25% directly from the ocean, but that's about the limit for the reasons you mentioned. Anything more than that would not be capable. In river plastic, you can get higher quality material, and you can also keep the economics more sound. But so to give you a sense of what we're doing now, some of the waste we collect are literally like mattresses, clothing that we will locally incinerate because there isn't any clear path on circularly recycling them. That's not the best solution, but better than letting it float in the river or landfilling or anything. But like quite literally, the objects the team pulls out are astounding. Like
what are some mattresses I can picture? Like
full mattresses, people in the rivers, luggage, lots of luggage.
Yep.
Big children's toys, think like bicycle helmets. I mean, anything. The problem is people, and then when they see garbage in the river, it gives more permission to throw more in the river.
Do you follow Mr. Trash Wheel on Twitter?
Yes.
Baltimore. Yeah. So great follow, Mr. Trash Wheel on Twitter. I'm from Baltimore, so I have this soft spot in my heart for Baltimore. But it's crazy. Like they basically talk about the stuff they collect all day, and it's very simple, just the randomest, craziest. They had a family of raccoons they collected once. They had but everything imaginable. And I would just, So I picture full mattresses going down the river, but then also just anything you can imagine, right? I mean,
all of this. And then this is only the stuff that floats that we can possibly collect. There's a lot of stuff that sinks to the bottom, right? That will not be collected unless you somehow got in there and picked it all up, because you can't really trawl for it. And We have to make these river traps so animals can swim underneath. So let's also remember it's only the floating stuff. And the same goes for ocean plastic. Like all the great work happening in ocean plastic is only dealing with the stuff that's floating.
Right.
A lot of stuff sinks to the very bottom. And that is a significantly harder process to deal with, is the stuff at the bottom.
Oh, totally. It's interesting just thinking about TerraCycle and what I know, and hopefully this idea, if you're like an octopus with 8 arms of all these different things you do, certainly on the foundation side, you're working on the river plastic work. And then with you're hard to recycle, whether it be PPE or whether you're recycling batteries or whether you're recycling cigarette butts, and you could probably give me some more. I mean, just like some of the most wildest stuff you guys are recycling. Car seats.
Yep. Dirty diapers, it goes on and on. Yeah.
But then when you get to the loop model, which is really important, and just when we're talking to brands and we're talking to retailers and you talk about loop, I mean, the faces light up, because this is and the activists, right? The Greenpeaces of the world are like totally lockstep and behind this, because it's all about reusing packaging and not making new packaging. So can you tell us a little bit about, Loop, the guiding philosophy there, and how's it going?
Yeah, absolutely. So Loop is a platform for reuse. It's one of our divisions at TerraCycle. And as a platform, what it does is it enables consumer product companies to develop and launch reusable versions of their products. So think like your Tide laundry detergent is in stainless steel now, literally. Your Cascade dish soap is an engineered plastic that can go around many, many times. And or your Tropicana is now in reusable glass. And there's 500 brands involved in the platform already. That's only in a year and a half. That's so many brands joined. On the other side, it's a platform that enables retailers to sell these products to their consumers, either through digital experiences. So you can go to walgreens.com/loop or Kroger and experience it. It's live now in UK, France, and the US. And then actually next Monday will be the first ever in-store deployment of Loop. That's going to be through Carrefour, which is a leading retailer, or the leading retailer in France. And you're going to see in-store deployments from Tesco, Kroger, Walgreens, all these retailers around the world, and then Canada, Australia, Japan, Germany, all coming up before the middle of next year. So really, it's good momentum. In fact, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we announced our partnership on Loop with McDonald's. So you can now get your reusable beverage or your beverage in reusable containers soon at McDonald's in the UK and then other countries. So it's growing very fast. And what it's trying to accomplish is how to make reuse feel like disposability. So you can buy anywhere and return anywhere. So you can buy your, say, coffee in a reusable cup at McDonald's, but then return it to a Tesco, and then buy your shampoo in a reusable package at Tesco, but return it to a different store, and so on and so forth. And the momentum has been really great. We've been thrilled by it. People are really embracing it. And I think a big part of that is that it's not only a sustainability solution, but it enables them to innovate in ways they haven't been able to innovate before, by making the packaging more beautiful, making it more functional. Like in Japan, which is launching in early next year, Ajinomoto, which is a major Japanese food company, is able to develop packaging that even has technology built into it that real-time measures the humidity and temperature of your product and sends it to your phone. But you can only do that if you don't own the package in the end. The consumer doesn't. If the package is just borrowed and really the property of the company. And that actually allows it sort of, I think, a very true form. It's maybe the extreme form of extended product responsibility and deposit return schemes. It's sort of mashing it all together, because you are fully responsible because you have to take the package back, period. Like, you got to take it all back and cover all the costs to have that occur. And it's all functioning under a deposit mechanism, which why we're seeing 96% return rates on Loop so far.
That's amazing. I have 3. We got a few minutes left. I have 3 rapid fire questions. And by the way, check out Loop online. The packaging is just so beautiful too. Like the Haagen-Dazs ice cream thing is just like, anyway. 3 rapid fire questions. First off, one of my guys on my team reached out to me yesterday, and he was just like, "Hey, guess what? I just invested in TerraCycle."
Hey,
and I was like, "Wow, can you talk about the crowdfunding? Is that still going live?"
It's closed as of now. We may open it again. It was very successful. They're still tallying the numbers, but I think it's going to be just under 20 million raised in crowdfunding.
Dude, amazing!
Not bad, not bad. If anyone wants to learn about it, the investment is not available anymore, but it was. You could go to ownterracycle.com to learn at least how we did it. But it's amazing, I think over 5,000 investors. I'm rough on these numbers. I may be off by a little bit here and there, but roughly 5,000 investors, roughly 20 million invested. And it's great because it's really folks out there who want to be a part of it. And TerraCycle is not yet a public company. I mean, one day, that may happen. But this is a great way to get folks to, be able to invest a little bit, be a part of our mission. And it's been really incredible to see the public response.
Dude, that is incredible, and such a different way to do it. Such a different way to fund so many different people. I mean, congrats!
No,
Definitely. Hey, we're getting some congrats.
There we go. Yeah, thank you, Jesse.
There we go. So, here's a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could be, we ran that big boat trip last year where we locked everybody up and didn't agree with each other for 4 days in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, in the middle of the Gyre. If you could be locked away on a boat for 4 to 5 days, and you could pick, like, let's just say 3 to 5 people just to focus on this issue, who would you want on that boat with you? And you can pick anybody.
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to be on that boat, just for future reference, Dave, right? But what I'd want, I forget to say the names, but I'd want someone, I want each of the stakeholders types represented, right? We'd want someone who's really focused on, who is the waste management, big waste management organization, so that their motivations are represented. Someone who represents producers, someone who represents retail, someone who represents government, and someone who represents sort of the general vendors who create the packaging and make it. That would be the 5. And maybe if we have one more, someone, who represents the individual consumer. And I think then when you have those representatives, those are the stakeholders that sort of make all this happen, right? I would try to make sure that the conversation is not about the brand saying, oh, I want consumers to be better. The consumer saying, oh, I want the laws to be different. Or the politician saying, oh, the petrochemical industry needs to change. But really focus on what each of those actors can do themselves and can commit to do themselves to move the system along. Because a lot of these conversations, tend to either miss some actors. The waste management ones are horrendously missed usually. And they tend to, we always sort of point to a different group, right? And I think the way to solve this is to take stock in what we can do ourselves. And by the way, the most important thing we can do right now, if you're listening to this, or just you and I, is vote with our money for the future we want by buying the things that are regenerative and doing the right thing, and in fact, ideally not buying at all. And that is the answer, right? And I just want to preface, right? I'm not good at this myself. I'm really working on it, but I'm pretty bad. And this is what's going to solve it all, because it doesn't matter how green, how fair trade, how, organic, how reusable a product is. Any purchase is a vote for destroying our earth, full stop, because even that, fair trade, organic, object had to be farmed, and that farm could have been a forest, could have been the natural environment. There's no such thing as good in the human world because of our scale. I almost don't know of any form of good consumption, right? So we do have to limit the amount of strain we put on our planet. And the only way to do that is scale down.
And there's probably a lot of people on Wall Street that wouldn't, maybe we can can we bring a banker as well?
Oh, no. See, that would be very interesting. Absolutely. And this is, the big point on that last point, I don't think is possible to accomplish in business because it's asking business to commit suicide in a way, right? Like reduce. And I don't think organisms are good at reducing, right? Like it's intrinsically incredibly hard. Organisms and businesses and organism are there to grow and consume. And that's everything wants to grow. So I don't know. That question is probably more a question to us as citizens and not as business practitioners, but we are both.
We totally are. So I'm thinking, waste, I'm just gonna staff the boat real quick just to flow this out. So waste, we'll have Jim Fish, the CEO of Waste Management. Retail, we'll have Doug McMillan, CEO of Walmart. Government, we'll bring Dan. We'll bring Dan. I think it's Dan Gilbert and Sheldon Whitehouse are the 2 senators that co-sponsor all kinds of things. Waste here in the U.S. Converters. We could bring any number of companies out that make maybe Amcor, Charter NEX, Noble X, and then producer. yeah, I guess that would just be like, maybe we can bring the CEO of P&G and Unilever.
Yeah, yeah.
And then maybe some waste pickers as well. But Tom, you're definitely on that boat.
I appreciate that. It'll be a fun ride.
Last question, and we got to get off immediately because it just turned 3:30. If you had one book you'd recommend that folks read about this issue, what would it be?
So one of the most inspiring books for me in this whole topic was Natural Capitalism, Paul Hawken. Is Natural Capitalism by Paul Hawken. It's been around for a while, but it was one of the books that got me into this. So I would definitely recommend that as an opening read.
Amazing. I'm writing that down, and I will let you know how it goes when I dive in there. But anyway, Tom Szaky, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate you joining today on SoulBuffalo Earth Report. And Tuesday we have Dune Ives from Lonely Whale and Next Wave, and from Lonely Whale and Next Wave Plastics. So Tom, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Congrats again on that crowdfund. That is incredible.
Right on. And thank you, and great to be here.
All right. Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Right on.